Salam and welcome back, everybody, to our podcast, Unapologetic, the third narrative.
Our original and authentic initiative in light of the war in Israel and Gaza.
A platform where we will share our identities, views, and experience from the ground. Ibrahim, I'm so proud of us.
I know, we're recording a lot more now.
Yeah, we're becoming super busy, I would have to say, with the podcast, with guests. We're so excited. In a minute, we're going to introduce our current guest that we have today. It's going to be a very interesting conversation.
Very. Just you wait.
So how have you been?
I've been good. I would say, one of the things that caught me off guard was a siren that we had today in Tel Aviv, which was, something that we haven't had in a month already. And, at the day that now we're recording, depends on when we release, because we have so many things coming up for our audience. So you'll see multiple episodes coming out. And actually, everybody's been asking us to release more. So we're obliging, guys. We're releasing more content.
Ask
we're bringing
and you
more
shall
podcasts,
receive.
episodes. And yeah, it's just been a challenging time just in general. Every day is a new challenge, I feel. What about you? How do you feel?
Well, with our previous, one of the guests that I don't know when we're going to release this, was one of the guests in one of our episodes that we actually recorded previous to this episode was with a guest, with a shagger. And it took me on a roller coaster, to be honest. It's just sometimes so much happens in this small region in such a short amount of time that we sometimes forget. Like one day for us is like a decade. One day is like an entire, to be more realistic, it's more like a week. Like we go through historical, life-changing events all in one day and all in a very, very small place. And sometimes, unfortunately, we forget about it and we're just like very much in the now. And to get to remember and hear that some people are still, like, because we lived the 7th of October, we were affected in the way that we were affected, but because we have kind of one foot in each side, and because of what's happening right now in Gaza, that's what we're feeling right now. And I personally forget sometimes that there are some people that are living the 7th of October every single day. Not because they don't feel with the Gazans, but because they feel more, because it hurt them more. And the recording with the Ashkar kind of like reminded me that, like, yes, there's something ongoing, but it's the two pains are just wounds that are continuously bleeding.
Yeah, after that conversation with the Ashkar, I remember, first of all, you realize that it's not just, and you remember again that it's not just because, we think in our heads about what's happening in Gaza and it's a long-term suffering, and then you put that into the context and it's not the case. You talk to Ashkar and you understand from like how traumental the 7th of October, and as you exactly said it, they live it every day. And the way that she spoke about it and how difficult it was for her. Honestly, I got back home exhausted, not just mentally, like I physically felt the exhaustion from that. And that was very difficult. And today's a new day.
Mm-hmm. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. We have a new guest. And here you can hear him already in the mic speaking. And our guest for today, a very special one, is Mansour Ashkar, who comes from the Druze community. And we will delve deep into what exactly that means. What is this secretive community that no one knows exactly about the religion? And
just to clarify for those who, if we mumble on words, Druze with a D, not Jews with a J.
Druze. D-R-U-Z-E.
Not Druids also.
Oh, some people say
really?
Druids.
Oh, I had conversations in the US that I spoke about my religion for like an hour. And then someone tell me, so wait a second, are you sure you're a Druid? And I said like, I don't run naked in the forest and hugging trees, man. That's what you thought for the last hour? Druze, not Druids. So yeah.
Maybe we should pronounce it the Arab way, Druze.
Druze. Our, it's another community, one of the minorities that lives here. One of the significant minorities, even though in numbers wise, it's a small minority.
It's a minority among minorities, yeah.
It's a minority among minorities. And today you live in Germany.
That's right.
So I guess I will start with asking you the most basic question. How do you define yourself, Mansour?
How do I define myself? That's a good question. I define myself as a Arab Israeli. Because that's into the world. When someone asks me outside, I tell them I'm an Arab Israeli. Or I'll sometimes just say I'm an Israeli. But if they go deeper, I'm an Arab Israeli. And for someone who knows a little better, I'll tell them an Arab Israeli Druze. Because most people don't even know what Druze is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting what you're saying when you say Arab Israeli Druze.
Hold up, let him continue. Is that it?
Yeah, and that was straight to the point about the question.
Straight to the point.
okay.
This is, that's, and it's fascinating. It's already fascinating to me because, and this is part of the reason why when I do the speaking engagements and I talk about Arab citizens of Israel, I do another division because not all the Arabs are one box. And one of the Arabs is a Druze community. And that community has a different identity than ours. It has a different perspective on the state than us as a community. On a personal level, it can vary. But as a community, I think one of the most significant and I would say visible differences that we have between our community and the Druze community is that the Druze community has conscription, meaning they have to serve they have mandatory service in the army.
That's right.
So their relationship already from the get-go is a completely different relationship from our community to Israel. But honestly, a lot of times I felt a division of Druze as Druze. But here you're saying we're Arabs as well.
Yeah, that's funny that you asked because I had some backlash from, not a lot, but some Druze as well. What happened in Israel is, first of all, the Druze are Arabs. They came out of the Islam about 1,000 years ago. They're part of the Arab community. If you walk into a Druze house, you walk into an Arab house. It's the same thing. The same food, a lot of the cultures, a lot of the hospitality and stuff. Different religion, different nuances, but it's an Arab community. However, in Israel, there is Druze that felt that they want to detach from that because of let's say the bad reputation that the word Arab in Israel sometimes had the connotation. So we're not Arab, we're Druze. But that's not true. He is Arab, he is Druze. So some people were not very happy when I was telling, I'm an Arab Israeli, I'm a Druze. They were saying, we've been working for so long to detach ourselves from that image and now you're bringing it back. And then I just told them, listen, man, just go to Wikipedia and look at it. You'll see. Part of the Arab, a small minority in the Arab world, kind of. I don't remember exactly the Wikipedia definition.
Yeah, because Druze are not only in Israel. They're in Lebanon, they're in Syria. They actually started, they left from Egypt before, and then they moved to the Levant. So they are in this area spread in more than one place.
Yeah, they started in like the area of northern, the area of Turkey, I would say. And then they went down to Egypt. If you want, I can delve a little bit like deeper.
It's always fascinating.
No, sure. I honestly, on purpose, we'll delve into what our communities think of later on. But I did zero research. I'm here to listen to hear from you. No biases.
We're here to learn.
When I introduce the Druze religion to friends, mostly outside of Israel, but also in Israel, I say Druze is a 1,000 years old New Age religion. So they started like 1,000 years ago, and they basically came and said, all religions are right. The Muslims got Nabi Muhammad, he came to give them the word of God. The Jews had Moses, and Abraham and Elijah, and etc. The Hindus got Buddha, and they said God came and spoke to everybody in a different way through different messengers, prophets. And all religions are right. So they're very tolerant and accepting to all religion. If you walk to a Druze village and you'll come and you say, I'm a Christian, Sidna al-Masih, they'll be super excited. We believe in him as well. You'll come and say, I'm a Muslim. We believe in Nabi Muhammad. And they will identify in some way with all religions. They went down to Egypt. They brought this New Age religion. It was accepted for several years, but then it was not accepted because the question came and they said, wait a second, you guys believe in reincarnation? Yes, we believe that people reincarnate. Do you guys believe that prophets reincarnate? Yeah, of course prophets reincarnate.
They can be.
Whoa, you want to say that there's a prophet after Muhammad? He's the seal of the prophet. That was a red line. They were considered kuffar, and then they were persecuted. So then they had to flee to the northern side of Israel and Lebanon and Syria. And if you think about it, the reason they're living on mountains is because that was the way for them to defend themselves.
To protect themselves.
So they became, in one hand, farmers and one hand, warriors. That have a turiya in one hand and a sword in the other hand. And they started defending themselves. And they also closed the gates. You cannot become Druze anymore. You can only be born Druze. So in contrary to, I would say, Christianity and Islam, Druze is not a missionary religion at all. They don't want to convert you. You can't. Try as much as you can't join us. So that's even more than the Jews. The Jews make it hard to become Jewish today. The Druze, forget about it, just can't.
And also the main difference with the Jewish community, if your mother is Jewish, you're Jewish. For Muslims, it goes by the father. For Druze, what's interesting, it goes by both parents.
Yeah.
You have both of you.
Both have to be Druze in order for you to be Druze. So if one is not, you're not Druze.
Yeah. They have some different rules about it. Like you can be half Druze, I think. And then if you will still marry a Druze, then your child will be...
So you're 3/4?
Yeah. They have a funny way about it. I'm not so sure about this. It's a secret religion. So a lot of the stuff, even the Druze themselves don't know. Unless you become a religious person. And then I have some kind of a monastery kind of attributes to it. You shave your hair because the hairs would make the man think about how he looks, and that's the vanity. Yeah. You wear these pants. It's not because they think the Messiah is going to come from the man. I heard that, silly story. It's mostly modesty.
Yep.
Imagine back in the days with jalabiya. And then someone came with the jeans, and that was a very practical way to be a farmer. That's easier to work with the jeans, but the jeans shows everything, the package and everything. So let's keep the sharwal inside.
Which is a form of a skirt for those who don't know from our, like a male dress.
Form of a skirt?
Like a...
it's a
it's
skirt
like a
pants.
baggy...
It's a spread bag.
Kind of, not to be offensive here, kind of like, to be superficial, like pirate pants.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. I don't think I've seen like people walking with it in colors now. It became some fashion.
Really?
Yeah. In the like the hipster hippie community.
Hipster hippie. Yeah. It became fashion. It made me just laugh. I was like, that's religious Druze.
No, but the shirwal is also part of the traditional wear of Syrians, no?
So they actually took, from what I know, they took different dress codes from different people. So when you see, because as a Druze, you're very, like, you dress not like, modern clothes. And then only if you decide that you're religious, it's like a decision, and then you change everything.
Yeah.
But then they took other elements. So for instance, the hat that they wear and you grow your mustache. You grow your mustache and you wear the hat.
You shave all your hair, but you grow your mustache?
Yeah, you grow your mustache. And these are very Ottoman symbols.
Yeah.
And they actually absorbed that from the Ottoman time. And it became part of the dress code, having the tarbush, which is very Turkish, but now they owned it for in a different style of dress.
So wait. How did the separation happen from Islam? We say that it's a branch of Islam, but how did the separation happen, and how was it allowed to happen?
So, like I said, back then, I mean, that's to my knowledge. I studied in university a little bit about it, and I'm sure there's some Druze who will have different opinions about it. I don't represent all of them. For my knowledge, is during that time, there were a lot of messianic religions going around, a lot of spirituality going in that region, and people were searching. And the people that started that religion, they basically compiled from different religions the thing that they identified, the thing that they like. Kind of, it was like a kind of a eBay shopping. Oh, I like let's take that part. Yeah. Oh, I like that about Judaism. Let's take that. I like that about Islam. Let's bring that in. Oh, Christianity, that's pretty cool. Let's bring that. Oh, you know what? Hinduism, I like the reincarnation, but not so many about the holy cow stuff. We want to eat cows. So let's keep that in. So they took what they like and they created this religion. Theologically, the Druze will say that the religion existed way back. It was just secret, hidden, and then revealed back then. But if you look at it historically, that's when we know it was presented to the world. And that's when they went down and they presented to the Khalif in Egypt, Hakim Ba'amrullah back then. And he was known to be a very spiritual guy, but he was known also to be a guy that have jananas. So in the beginning, he liked what they did. Oh, that's pretty cool. Was accepted in Egypt. And then they flipped after, like I said, the whole issue.
They were expelled from Egypt.
They were expelled. They were persecuted. They were killed. And since then, they were basically surviving. And if you think about it, one of the interesting things, the Druze are not allowed to have a country of their own. It's in their religion. They're not allowed to have a government of their own.
Okay.
And you have the theological...
Sounds familiar. Like I feel a few similarities from Judaism, no? Like
Jews look
are
for
allowed.
a
No,
nation
wait.
state.
The expulsions from Egypt. And
Oh,
then,
in that sense.
Oh,
yeah,
yes, yes.
like,
Yeah. In that sense, for sure. But yeah, that's very unique to them that they don't have like they don't seek self-determination.
I think
but in Judaism, isn't that they shouldn't return, that they had and they did.
It's divided also. But even Jews had twice a state of Israel in the old.
So it's not that they can't have. It's the okay.
They
Got it.
they're not allowed to have.
Yeah.
Like the Jews had it twice, and then they were out of this area for a couple thousand years.
Okay.
But for them, it's like you
no,
never
it's
do
not allowed. The Druze are basically
Is
in
there
the
a reason?
religion. So the spiritual religion says that a government would lead to politics lead to corruption, lead to started, focusing on earthly things, and we're not. We don't want to have that. The historic reason, that's only my interpretation. Imagine that you're a small minority group, tiny one, that just want to live in peace. And you have this huge giant, which is the Muslim empire on one side and the Christian empire. And these guys are coming and colliding and fighting all over Jerusalem and just kind of destroying everything in their way. And then they come with the Crusaders and then they take Jerusalem and this. So you're a small group there and just kind of raise like, hey guys, listen, I'm not an enemy of any of you. All I want to do is I want to work my land. Respect me, I'll respect you. I'll tell you even more. My religion even tells me I'm not allowed to have a country, and even tells me in my faith that I will serve loyally any government who's above me as long as they respect us. So I think that's a very beautiful thing about the Druze religion, that they're very tolerant, very acceptant, and also they're very non-threatening. They will not try to come and conquer you. They will not try to come and convert you. All they want to do is just let us live our life, let us work our land. You want tax, we'll pay you tax. You want different rules, as long as it doesn't go against our core religion, we're fine with that.
And that's like exactly why actually, and you can see it especially in the army. Like, right, army is one of the places where you can understand very powerful nationalist perceptions and loyalty, right? So some of the highest ranking members in the army in Lebanon and Syria are all Druze. It's very known that the Druze are very much like, even in the previous battles, like Israel had, you would have a Druze on one side fighting a Druze on the other side.
Yeah, that happened.
But it's because each one is in his country and is loyal to his country.
They're loyal to his country as long as that country respect them and not try to kill them. They'll pay the tribute to be part of that country. And which brought to your point, like when you said about similarities, one of the reasons that I feel that the Druze related very fast with the Jews that came here is because, I don't want to offend anyone, but my enemy's enemy is my friend, you can call it. So the Druze were surviving under the Muslim empire, and they were basically trying to kill them for all this time because they're kuffar, considered as per the religion. So when the Jews came here, they were fighting as well with the Muslims. So they go, okay, you guys are fighting them, we got to fight them, we can actually be friends. So it was easier for them, but also the Druze have an easier way to adapt under different regimes because, like I said, in the religion, they don't want a country. They just, if you guys want to be the country here, fair enough. Promise to treat us well, promise to give us our rights. Okay, we'll pay our tribute. So it was easier for them to relate with the Jews here and to go and be a very integrated part of the government, of the country here.
And now we're talking about more of the, delving in deeper into today's society. Because, like we said, one of the main differences between the two communities is that the Druze one serves in the army, which gives it a different integration, I would say, to the state. Because, like, it's very important that one of the biggest gaps I would feel that we have as an Arab community here in Israel with the Jewish one is that we don't meet. We never meet. We meet in college, maybe. And if you think about it, in college means 18, 19, 20 for an Arab. And then 24, 25, 26 because they have the army. For Jewish. Yeah. But the hub, which the cultural hub.
Same with the Druze.
Same with the Druze. And the cultural hub that is established is in the army. Like that's where the Israeli society as a society was established, even at the existence, like when the state started. That's why they did conscription in the first place. Because that's where you create the Israeli society, because everybody's in one place. So when they're there, they're able to integrate with the society in a place where we're not there. the only answer is that we need to find other places to integrate as well.
I think you hit it on the nail. You just really nailed the point that I was thinking when I was coming, to be interviewed. By the way, first of all, thanks for inviting me, guys. We jumped right into deep stuff, but
it's just how we are.
Yeah,
we're very intense sometimes.
I'm a big fan. Really, when the war started, I got exposed to your podcast for the first time, and I fell in love. I said, I really got to meet these guys because I feel that your voice is so unique and so important, especially through these days. Because just like you call yourself, the third narrative, you're bringing a third narrative that is not almost unheard of, if I'll be honest. Like, I don't think I know individuals here and there that will say it, but publicly going out, I don't know a lot of Muslims that, are saying what you're saying, that are trying to find a way that both sides can meet in the middle. And I think that's just beautiful what you guys are doing. Regarding what you said, so yeah, most people form their whole identity. And then when you come to the age of 23, 24, or 19, you already have your identity. And you already kind of, if you were taught that the Jews are your enemies, then it's going to be very hard to change that at that age. If you're taught that they're not so nice, or I don't know what. So the Druze, it makes it easier for them because, first of all, we accepted our identity as Israelis from a very early age. It's not, if you go to a Druze village, you'll see as many Israeli flags and Druze flags, probably more than a Jewish city. They see themselves as complete Israelis. And I think that made it much easier for them to adapt to this culture and accept, and also for the culture to adapt to them. If you go in the street and you'll say you're a Druze, a lot of the Jews will just, oh, we love you guys. You guys are brothers. And
brothers in blood.
Brothers in blood, yeah.
Because they fight and die together. So
exactly.
That's the term they use a lot.
Exactly. You are brothers in blood. We've been here together. Now, if you go to the street, in some, let's say not in Tel Aviv, in some less progressive city, and you say, hi guys, I'm a Muslim, you might get some Jews like, not very happy. Same if you will go to an Arab village, because they didn't connect at the age of childhood, I think. As children, that Jew grew up thinking, oh, the Arabs. And that Arab grew up thinking, oh, these Jews. And then when they meet suddenly in university, they're not connecting as fast, I feel. So regarding to like what you said is that national service, if it's an army or if it's anything, I think it's so important. And you're like, I'm a Druze, I'm not a Muslim, but I think if the Muslims in Israel that see themselves as, Israeli Arabs, or at least identify, we live in this country, this is a country. We don't want to live in Jordan, we don't want to live in Egypt, we want to live here. This is our country. If they will start doing some kind of a national service or some kind of something that will connect them to this country, they will have a much easier time to cross bridges.
So here's my thought on that, and then you can tell me what you think. My thought on that is that we, as a from our community, a Palestinian Israeli one, so we have a very mixed identity because we're also part of the Palestinian people. It's almost impossible to imagine joining the army.
I know.
That's for sure. If I tell my grandma I'm going to the army, she'll get a heart attack. Like my grandma suffered in 1948, like herself. So that's out of the question, and for a lot of people. But the issue then becomes, because if you do national service, one of the issues why a lot of Arabs don't do national service, because it's the word national.
Yeah.
So national, le'umi, it already is like you're serving the state. And I already have a complicated relationship to the state. So I'm serving it now. Like it's very difficult. And the idea was maybe to change it to community service. But then the idea was...
Yeah, that's how they recruit Arabs.
They tried to change the name, but actually it didn't really work because it was already like placed as national service, even though like you can... And I'm all for doing community service. Yeah. Because actually I have a lot of... Like I have friends who said, like for instance, working in kindergarten, a lot of the supporters to the kindergarten are people who are doing community service. Without them, the kindergarten would not even like function, would not survive. Mm-hmm.
Let's just differentiate for a second between national and military service. So military service is basically it's now 2.5 years, or is it 2 years?
No, it's the military service is like 3, but it's like counted by months. So it's like a whole... You can
Let's
tell
say-
us
Depends
more.
if you're a combat soldier or not.
But it has
yeah.
changed recently.
It
is
changed to
whatever.
2.5, I think. Yeah.
It's two. Let's say it's 3. And feel free to correct us on
3
this.
and 2. Or
Yeah.
like also like the women
For
have
women.
a. Have
No, I
a-
think they made it equal.
They made it equal.
They made it equal. The
Really?
years of the serving. That's what it's
It's
changing.
a work in the
yeah,
making.
Yeah,
Okay.
Well, we
okay,
promise to
X
check
amount of
it.
years. X amount of years. Community service or national service is only 1 year.
1 year.
And the difference is basically this is like the military. You have a uniform. You represent the army. When it comes to national service or community service, or let's call it what they call it, شوط لومي. National service. National service is only 1 year minimum, 2 year maximum. The way I understood is that it started because of religious Jewish women that wanted to serve the country but didn't find the military service to be serving their religion. So that was kind of the way there. It's also a way for people that have disabilities to join to serve their state, and for Arabs that don't want to do military service to do national service, that don't want to go that extra step. And it's for 1 year. You can do it for 2 years. What else am I forgetting? And there's no like, you don't wear a uniform. You can do it. It has nothing to. You can be in the medical staff. You can be in an ambulance. You can be a teacher's assistant. You can work in a field in a farm. Like it's.
And
like,
you can do, and that's one of the challenges that I was thinking about. That you can do it in your own community, which is great for us to strengthen our community. But then at the same time, we won't meet with the Jewish community again.
Yes.
So my place where I always wanted to see it more happening is in the schools.
Yeah.
Is to have maybe sister schools. That the students in an earlier age to meet, because the community or national service is a place where you're just working like for that purpose and maybe in your own community. So you also won't meet that many Jewish people. So,
yes.
But and actually what you said about the religion is something that's important to mention also about the Druze community, that the men in the Druze community serve in the army.
The women don't.
And the women don't. The women do national service also because of the religious.
Mandatory.
Not mandatory.
Not mandatory, but they can do.
But like a lot of people in the Druze community from the women also do community service. And also for the Caesarean, Cherkessim, it's the same also. That only the men do the service and women usually do community service. Which is...
You know, if I can come and emphasize how important that is for, integrating in your country. When I joined the army, because all Druze men, it's mandatory. In my team was a Tel Avivi guy that was gay, few Ethiopians, few religious Jews, few secular Jews. And these were people that I would never meet, especially with the gay person. That's like in my community. I would never, but now we became like brothers after 2 weeks. Sharing the same equipment, eating from the same places, doing stuff. You suddenly connected. I remember like the first time we went out to like an after party, and we went out in Tel Aviv, and one of my Tel Aviv friends, he was wearing a thong. I was like, what? Like where I live, like we'd never see a guy wearing
the Druze
that.
community it's important to mention, it's very conservative.
Very conservative.
More than our community, I would even say.
Oh yeah, by
We're
far.
liberal next to the Arab community.
Yes. Oh yeah, by far.
Okay, we're going to talk now a little bit about our upbringing and what we thought about the other person. How about Ibrahim? Would you like to start? You as a person from Nazareth, or let's say generally from up north, what was your impression, and maybe take us through a journey of what was your impression from childhood, when did you actually meet the Druze person, and now?
So I was actually thinking about it before we met with Mansour, trying to remember when I met the Druze community. So there were 2 main incidents in my life, or 3 actually. The first one, when I was a kid, we had a Druze family, as Mansour said, like they live on the mountaintops. And that we had a family that were friends of ours that we used to go to. And for me, it's whenever I go there, it's like I go to those people who live in heaven. Literally, that was my perception. They live in the most beautiful, next to waterfalls, like gorgeous area. That was my perception. Is I go to our friends who are from different community, They dress differently. I was just aware of the visible different look.
Yeah.
The women also wear a scarf, but it's a different kind of scarf. And then the men, that family also, the father was also a religious Druze. So he had the hat, the stash, the long robe. And I was like, okay, these are our friends who have they're Arabs from different community. That's how they dress. And I just go to this little spot of heaven to play.
It's a peaceful life.
And that was when I was very, very young. And all throughout my upbringing in Nazareth after that, because Nazareth doesn't have any Druze community, and we don't have any Druze village relatively close to us either.
Not too close.
So I never interacted on a daily basis with anyone Druze.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I ever did was actually when I was in high school. We had I was accepted to a scholarship to go to the US in 11th grade. So it was a group of different students from the Arab community in Israel. And it was our community, and also we had a few people who were from the Druze community.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to talk to them more in person. And then I remember the first, interactions and actually asking them about their community, about their culture. And for me, it was like as a 10th grade or 11th grade, I was like, wow, this is very exotic to me. Like, this is so outside of what I know, and it's so beautiful and it's so peaceful. And I remember actually when we went to the US, there was one incident when it was us and it was from different countries around the Arab world. The whole idea of this program was to change perception of Muslims and Arabs and minorities in the Middle East in the United States, especially after 9/11. And you go and you live with an American family for a full year. And we did one round of introduction. And it was 500 kids from all over the Middle East, and they called each country. And they called Palestine. So almost everybody from our group stood up too, except the Druze. And then when they said Israel, only the Druze got up. And maybe one or two others. And people started to ask them questions, and why are you doing this? And why is that? And they had to explain where they come from and why they see the state in a completely different way. That was my first real exposure to it. And then when we got back, I remember one of them went to the army. And then I'm like, okay, wow, this is such a mind fuck.
Yeah,
I know you're Arab, but you're also in the army, and pictures and hugging with your friends from the army and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, this is so far from anything we experience or know. It felt foreign to me at that time. And then the third incident was when I actually was working in the more northern part of the state, and there I actually worked with Druze people. I literally lived with them, and I would go I had Druze friends that I would go to their home. And so then I learned way more about what exactly a Druze is, what the religion is. We met with religious figures who explained it to us, with the families. You start to learn also about some of the challenges. Mm-hmm. And the conservativeness of the community, that I was not aware of how conservative it is.
Very conservative.
Because
they make the Jews look like they're very secular.
So for me, because, and I think this is kind of quote unquote trick that also the Jewish people fall for in a way, is that the perception is, because I met two Druze men. They were very liberal. They were very outgoing. One of them had a piercing, this and that. So you're like, okay, this community is relatively secular. But then years later, when I actually met with the community more deeply, then you realize that it's not the case, and that it's a very patriarchal community, very much so. And I think that happens a lot to the Jewish community because they meet the Druze men in the army. Mm-hmm. So the perception is and the Druze men tend to be very, in the army, they're just like any other Israeli in the army. Some of them would have tattoos, some of them have piercings, some this, some that. And some of them would go out with Jewish girls. I don't know if we should say that, because the Druze community is very strict with these things, but that also happens. So the perception becomes that, it's a very liberal community. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a very patriarchal.
No, I had a few, I would call it slaps in the face, that I realized how not liberal.
Actual slaps in the face?
No, surprisingly no, but it was very close. Like, if I can cut into your story.
Please.
I had a friend. I was in the army, and I had a friend. She was a Jewish Russian friend, very good friend of mine. And she wanted to see my village. So I brought her to my village, and my grandfather came out, and he was a very respected religious man. And he took us around with his Jeep to the Zayt, how you call it? Zayt.
To the olive branches.
To the olive tree, land that he had. And he showed us how, you take the olives, and he took us to the house, and he treated her literally like he treated a queen. And then he came and he drove her with me to the bus station. We waited for her to go on the bus. She went, and then he turned to me and he said something like this: 40-something years I've been in the army, and I've never brought a non-Druze woman to the village. That's the last time that you do that.
Wow.
And I'm like this. And he walked away, and I'm like, wow, that was like, but for him, I'm not married. She's not married. We're walking together. That's can be the gossip in the village can go ballistic. Mansour is now married to a Russian girl. I don't know what. So he told me 40 years. I have many Jewish friends, but I never brought a woman by herself to the village. That's the last time you do that. So that's how conservative they are.
Yeah, I remember even one time in my old job, we were gonna buy stuff for the office, and we had a Druze woman who was working with me, and she was gonna go get them. It was her job to go get some things for the. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of things to bring. It's gonna be heavy. Let me help you. We'll go together. She said no. You can't get in the car with me. I was like,
no.
What do you mean?
Absolutely not.
We're working. We're not.
when you tell this story, when you tell this story, I feel like it's 101. 101 conservative woman. It's 101. You don't get into the same car.
Yeah, she would not have me in the car. And actually, then I learned that specifically in her village, which was one of the most conservative Druze villages, Kisra.
Yeah.
One of the most religious villages, most women don't drive. They don't allow them to drive culturally, which was
my mom doesn't even want to drive.
Again, I don't understand how this is a shock. I really don't understand how this is a shock. It just comes hand in hand with oppressing women. I'm sorry. It comes hand in hand with religious conservative people and how they treat women. Look at Saudi Arabia and women driving.
It became new only recently.
I know, but when you think of women not driving, the first thing you think about is Saudi Arabia. Previously.
Right.
There are also villages in the West Bank where women are not allowed to drive.
I 100% agree with you.
It's.
But here's how it caught me. I would say surprised, because my part of my family comes from a village, and it can be relatively conservative in a way, but in these things it wasn't.
No, the Druze are more conservative.
In these things it was okay. People are going to the work together. It's not a question here. That's not what is gonna collapse the world. Is if she went in the car with a coworker for something for work.
Yeah, they're very conservative.
Other things.
No, it's
like I couldn't imagine that someone from my village would tell me that, or would tell someone other. That's why I was like, oh wow. Because
in Islam, the saying is, I don't know if this is a hadith or not, so I'm not gonna even say, and I'm sorry if I'm saying it in a false way, but ما اجتمع رجل وأنثى إلا وكان الثالث الشيطان أو ما الشيطان ثالثهما. So if a man and a woman are alone together, the third person is the devil.
Yeah.
And that's the wiswas. That's the person. That's the bad thoughts that they're going to do something. And a car is very intimate. So
yeah, it's just I don't know. Just for me, thinking about my community and even the conservative part of it, which was interesting because I talked about it with a friend from Usafia, which is a city, a Druze city, and it's he would So he would tell me, some of the villages are more conservative, we're much more liberal, and all these things. I was like, okay, great. And then I remember that his sister was going to go to university. I was like, oh, where she's going to go? Jerusalem, Tel Aviv. He's like, what are you kidding? He's going to go to Haifa. I was like, but she is in Haifa. Doesn't she want to go somewhere different? It's like, no. You would stay where the family, close to home. And that is not the case for the Arab community. Even very conservative villages, some people go to Jerusalem, people go to Tel Aviv. Maybe Tel Aviv becomes because of the connotation of Tel Aviv. But people go to Jerusalem all the way on the other side of the country.
It's
women,
very rare.
It's different.
I think in general,
you have to stay in the community.
Yeah. I think in general in the Arab culture, they're very protective over women. I would say overprotective. The Druze take it to like an Olympic level. They're like a little bit more protective than that.
People of Hebron can compete with you.
Maybe.
She would know.
Maybe, no, but for me, I never really agreed with that too much. Like I felt it was unfair. I felt it was unfair that I, as a man, can do so many things and my sisters are not allowed to do it.
Can you express a little bit, a few of those examples, maybe, like that you saw?
Education-wise, for example, that really bothered me. Well, what do you mean that I can go study wherever I want and my sister can't? I told her this is bluntly discrimination. You can't come and say, so yes, there's a lot of, cultural protection, also like family pressure. If something happened to her, it can start like a whole, like, family war. Kind of, so they want to avoid that. But dress codes.
Tell me a little bit about that. I don't know about the dress code for women.
So here's an interesting thing. Druze women are very modest in their dress code, and also they don't wear earrings.
Yeah,
there's no earrings.
Or rings. Like one time,
rings.
Yeah. Or rings. I didn't know.
They
Earrings,
don't have wedding rings. They have necklaces instead of wedding rings.
I almost made my mom faint on a family dinner. I was in Africa with a friend. We were building a school and an orphanage for a village, on a tribe there, in Uganda.
Wow.
And when I went to the market there were so many beautiful earrings and rings and all, and I like bought my sister's earrings. I forgot that I was Druze for a second. I was like in this whole
infatuated by the culture.
Because I was in Africa, they dressed me with African outfits, and I was dancing with them, and I was like, wow, and I want to bring this to my sister. It's beautiful. And I came and I brought.
And also, honestly, you're a man. You're not going to remember this.
Exactly. Fair enough.
You're not going to remember this.
I agree with you. So I came and I brought my mom some plates, and I brought my brother some, kind of a drum from Africa, and I brought my sister. And I opened and I said hala, and I came behind and I brought earrings, and my mom was like, and she started like almost fainting, and my sister looked at me like, "Are you stupid?" And I'm like, crap. Like, okay, I forgot. So yeah, they're very.
This is what other women told me other women like.
Yeah. It's the Jews. No. So then I had. So when we were in Elat, one time we went to a wedding in the village, and I remember talking to my sisters and telling them, "Okay, remember, it's a village. You need to dress very modest." And of course, they were the most modest girls in that wedding, because the Druze did evolve and went, so they were dressing more, I wouldn't say like, slutty. No, absolutely
not. But when we say modest, just so our listeners understand, modest covering your hair, or modest covering knees, covering the
you will barely see a Druze woman in the village walking with a miniskirt. Absolutely not. Like I don't think I ever saw that.
Pants,
yeah. Many pants, tight jeans, or they dress normal. They dress very nicely and modern today.
Covering the hair?
No one expects them to do that. So in that way, they're very open, but they will not like wear pants that you can see the underwears through them. They will not, wear a shirt that you can see everything.
So like just to be superficial, Christian modest?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar to that.
So no sex appeal.
I don't know. Like, what do you mean by that?
Like not the intention of being.
Yeah. No, they won't. That's not accepted. Like usually. Again,
sex before marriage is unaccepted in the religion.
Yeah.
It's like a huge no.
Huge no.
This description of women and what is giving me anxiety.
We're sorry, Amira, but that's actually the reality, unfortunately.
Hey, in general, the whole Arab world, if you ask me, need to evolve when it comes to women. Like, in the 21st century, I'm sorry, many people might not like to hear that, but we have a long way to go.
Understatement.
Yeah, understatement. We have a long way to go. And, I think in Israel, we're probably doing a little bit better than, I was in Jordan, for example, and I think I'm the first Israeli ever to walk all of Jordan. I completely hiked all of Jordan before they started the Jordan Trail. I was part of the team that actually, I would say in a way, built the Jordan Trail, because I was helping them put the rujums, so other backpackers behind me. And yeah, we were hosted by amazing Bedouins that opened their tents for us. But you can see, like, he have 4 wives. They're behind a curtain. They would like looking through the hole at us. You can't talk to them, So I was.
That's a very specific like not all of Jordan is like
no,
that.
of course not all Jordan, but I'm saying there is quite a lot of that in the Arab world. There's quite a lot, and the government just lets it be. If you ask me, they should really push for equality, for education. In the big cities, you'll see it differently. You go to Amman, you go to big cities, you go to Beirut, it's different. But in the
rural areas,
it's still biblical times.
And Bedouins here in Israel?
Same.
I think have multiple wives and all these things, and especially also the Bedouins here are very different. The Bedouins in the north are more urban. They have their own towns. In the south, you have the big city of Rahat, but then you have all of these smaller little villages, and also some people who are still, I would say, semi-nomadic. And then they also have very, very strict rules that are also more strict than the rest of the Arab community here.
Yeah. I would say in the Druze community in Israel, it became very accepted now. Druze women go to university, they go study, they get degrees. You have lawyers, you have architecture. I know a few Druze women that live in Tel Aviv and work.
They're badass when they're
There's a really cool girl that she's like a badass architect. She's building scrape towers and etc. So that's in my eyes, that's a huge progress, and I really hope that this will keep going. They become role models for younger girls to want to be independent and successful in the world, but still we have a long way to go.
We interrupt this episode to express our heartfelt gratitude to our supporters and our Patreon members. Without you, we wouldn't be where we are today. So this is a reminder that if you join our Patreon community, you will have access to exclusive content, and you will be the first to know when we have something going on in your city. So that is your reminder to join the Patreon, and you can do it with the link in our description. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate it a lot.
Like you said.
I will bring us back a little bit to the conversation, because I know we delved on women issues, and we can go on for hours.
We're talking about how we got introduced to each other's religions.
Druze women, we can talk about that specific topic. Is it's a Pandora box. But I will want to talk about other things as well, and ask you, Amira, when was the first time you were introduced to even the concept of Druze? The first Druze you've ever seen or met? Where, especially being raised in East Jerusalem, it's a completely different dynamic than ours. For us, it's either they're in the surrounding villages, because some of the Druze live in their own villages, and some live in mixed towns like Shvamer, that has Arab, Bedouin, Christian, and Druze all live in the same city, even though they're segregated to neighborhoods. But the Druze are part of the society, the community, the overall community. There are no there's no Druze community in Jerusalem. So the people that come to Jerusalem is very specific. So can you talk about that?
Sure.
I would like to even add, if that's okay, were you afraid of the Druze, or maybe angry at them, or the community that you lived in?
Oh, she'll tell you everything. Don't worry.
No, I'll tell you everything. It's okay. So I came, me and my family came back from the States. I was about 6 years old when we came back, and like I described in episode 2, I feel like everyone who's in East Jerusalem, we're not exposed to the rest of Israel. We're not exposed to the rest of Israel. That includes Palestinian citizens of Israel or Arab citizens of Israel. And that includes Jews that are not secular Jews. We see the Orthodox Haredim, we see police officers, we see soldiers, and maybe staff at the bank, staff at the medical staff, and that's it. And usually we confine to East Jerusalem, the bubble of East Jerusalem. And that was the case for me as well. The same way you said that they lived in heaven because it was on hills, when my aunt on my mom's side is married to someone who lives up north, and I never had a concrete what does that mean? في الشمال, up north. What does that mean? I always imagined kind of up to date. I always imagined kind of an Arabized West Jerusalem up north. That's what I imagined, because I knew that you spoke Hebrew, you were more integrated in their society. When it comes to Druze, I remember, I think me or my mom or my sister got, I think, a ticket, like a driving ticket. And we don't speak Hebrew. Like I'm teaching myself still, and we were struggling. And then the person was kind of fed up with us struggling, and he just switched to Arabic. And then I was like, "What?" It was like error 404 in my mind. It's like, hold up, why does he speak Arabic? And then I remember I asked my mom, and there was another occasion where during Ramadan where you go pray at Al-Aqsa, and there's like the kind of like the Aqsa checkpoint where they need to check that you're Muslim and whatever. And usually the people there speak Arabic, like the soldiers there speak Arabic. And that confused me also, because during Ramadan when you want to go pray in Al-Aqsa, and then I had so many questions, and I asked my mom, it's like, why do they speak Arabic? And my mom, and I asked so many questions, and I came to the conclusion that, okay, they are either Jewish people, that Jewish Israelis that learn Arabic because they're in the intelligence force, they're like in mukhabarat, or mustaribin, like that make themselves look like Arabs, or they are traders.
And traders were the Druze, I guess.
Or they are traders.
Like from the Arabs who are traders.
Who are traders. Yeah. And then I would ask more questions, and then I came upon the word Druze. And then I was like, who are they? What are they? I would get the answers of, they're not actually Arab. They're not Muslim. They're traders. Those are the questions those are the answers that I got. And I never actually met an actual person, and up until now I don't have any Druze friends. I met like a Druze through a program, but it's not like someone that I call once a week or even once a month, but it's like someone that taught me about kind of like that they can't pierce their ears, that they can't eat mlukhiyeh, that
they cannot eat
mlukhiyeh.
Yeah.
In Israel. In Syria, they do.
Yeah?
Yeah, in Israel, they can't.
So these kind of, what's mlukhiyeh in English?
I don't know, but they believe it's
like
some
spinach.
kind of...
It's not spinach.
It's not exactly spinach.
So it's a plant. It's a plant that you make it looks
they
like
say
spinach.
that it's natural Viagra.
Yeah.
It's aphrodisiac. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's why they don't want us to
aphrodisiac, you can't consume things that get you aroused.
It's very tasty, and it never got me aroused.
Oh God!
It's just my mom is gonna faint right now. But hey, my Syrian relatives in Germany, Druze Syria, we went to their house and they prepared mlukhiyeh for us, and I said, out of respect, I'm not gonna not eat it, and I didn't get aroused. It was just very tasty.
So those were the answers that I got, and up until this day, it's an extremely tough idea for me to wrap my head around that it's an Arab, which in my mind, an Arab in Israel, a Palestinian, to serve in the Israeli army. I can understand Shirut Leumi, national service. Sababa, I can understand it. You're giving back to your own community. That can be the Arab or the Palestinian community. But when it comes to military service, when I see someone in that uniform speaking in Arabic, it shatters me. It really does shatter me. Still to this day, especially in the times right now. I remember my mom would tell me whenever I was like, oh, but what if I had a Jewish friend? Or what if I had an Israeli friend? She would tell me that's fine. They can come. She was even okay with them coming to have dinner and lunch with us and to eat on the same table. But she would always tell me, Amira, if there was war tomorrow, she would tell me, if there was war tomorrow, it would always be you against them. And she's not wrong. We see the sentiment right now between people. We feel it, that it's Arab against Jew, that it's Arab against Israeli. I still feel it. even from the way that people are talking, the way the politicians are talking. That's like people. Like I feel that it's a sad. There is kind of a sad truth to it that we, because of the lack of understanding, because of the ignorance gap between our identities, that there is a truth to it. But to go back into that, like the serving, whether that was a police officer or a soldier.
I think to unpack it, because what we said here is things that I'm aware of and I've heard them, and I've heard them from the other side because I served in the army. I got called traitor many times, especially by Palestinians, mostly, less by Arab Israelis, but even for them, many times it was very difficult. But let me ask you a question. I mean, you get a liberal experience when you live in Israel, like as an Arab, as a Jew, and etc. And that experience will not exist if the army wasn't protecting us around, because then Israel would be probably conquered by some other, Muslim countries that don't want Israel to exist. And then it'll become an extension of Jordan or Egypt, or I don't know what. So understanding that, don't you feel a little bit sometimes, okay, I'm glad that Israel have the army to protect, because you're living in Tel Aviv, you're living in a very secular city, so I guess you are enjoying some of these privileges that comes with a secular city. You can walk in the street, dress however you want, and in Tel Aviv, no one would care. In some Arab countries around, you won't be able to live like that as a woman. So there is fruits to living in a democracy, in a non-religious democracy. There's a lot of debates about that, but in general, Israel is a not religious democracy. I mean, you can open that discussion, but it's closer to being in Tel Aviv is closer to being in Berlin than to being in Cairo, in that aspect. So aren't you thankful that there is soldiers, doesn't matter if they're Jews or Arabs, that are actually sacrificing their 3 years of their life, maybe even their lives, to create that reality that you can live in as a woman, as a liberal, modern woman that you are?
One, I don't feel like they're protecting me. I think that I'm a byproduct that is protected because of their presence. However, when I was in Jerusalem, the sensation, the soldiers were at the door of my school, because I studied in East Jerusalem, it was at Damascus Gate, which is where all the riots and all the clashes between Palestinians and the Israeli forces would happen, and the sense that they are there to keep Palestinians in line. Usually forces, police, are there to protect the citizens, to protect even when they're residents, to protect the residents. However, the sensation, the feeling that I would get, it's that they're there to catch me whenever I'm like not walking straight. They're there to catch me, to make sure that the Jews that are there are safe from the Arabs and the Palestinians that are there. And your comment about it being a liberal democracy. First, that Tel Aviv is not a representation of Israel. It's not. It's a bubble, like we say, the same way Jerusalem is a bubble. It's called the state of Tel Aviv for a reason, because it's not a representation. And like, even like, forget politics for a second, go dress in a way that is like a short mini skirt, or in a like what is seen to be in a liberal way, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's your choice, in Jerusalem, not in East Jerusalem, in West Jerusalem, you won't be looked at like, because it's a religious community, in an ultra Orthodox community, you can't wear whatever you want. You can't.
But in most of Israel,
Shabbat,
you can.
but on Shabbat, during the Sabbath, on Saturdays, with my car, if I wanted to drive, which in a democracy you have the freedom of worship, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. When of movement, when I would drive through a religious area in Jerusalem, I would either get mobbed, which it happened once that a car got mobbed and someone got killed because they were trying to attack it. Our car would get stoned, and we would get shouted at, spat on. So it's not as like fluffy and rainbows. And there's something that I've heard from the Arab community recently, that it is a Jewish democratic state for its Jews, and a Jewish state to its Arabs. And like I can wear whatever I want, I can choose. But can I wave my Palestinian flag whenever I want? Can I wear my kufiya freely and safely all over Israel?
Well, regarding the Palestinian flag, you can probably wave any flag you want in Israel and no one would care. But when it comes, no, you can wave the gay flag, American flag, Indonesian flag,
Yeah, but not the Palestinian flag.
Yeah, the Palestinian flag, it's a little bit packed because there is a part in the Palestinian community, especially grasped by the Israelis, that want to destroy Israel, that want to annihilate. So that basically, in many Israeli eyes, Jewish eyes, I would not care that much, to be honest. As long as you don't try to harm anyone, you can do whatever flag you want. But many Jews and Israelis, that for them, that would be equivalent as if waving the Nazi flag. Because they say these guys try to kill us, and now you're waving the flag of the people who want to kill us. So that might be the reason, but that's not like the law.
But I'm not waving the Hamas flag.
No, but it is like this is exactly why the term Palestinian is not recognized in the country.
It's part of the problem.
Because the term Palestinian in Israel today is perceived as a political movement. So and I think this is also why they're more, quote unquote, a bit more tolerant when Jews raise the Palestinian flags, like, on the ultra left, than you would. Because a Jewish person waving the Palestinian flag is someone who's supportive of the Palestinian people. But if a Palestinian waves the flag, it's a statement of their political intent to change this country to Palestine. I think that's their fear, because it's still connected as a political movement. But I agree on the kafiyah. But another problem with the kafiyah is that it's also been politicized a lot. But still, in the same time, actually, the kafiyah became a trend. Now we have the purple kafiyahs and the yellow and God knows what, like all these new ones. And actually, a lot of Jewish people wear it.
Yeah, it saddens me.
Interesting, but I wouldn't.
No, but you can't have selective democracy. You can't have selective democracy. You're either a democracy or you're not. If you claim, if it's the state that claims to be the only democracy in the Middle East, and that is its slogan, and it say that is what it's bringing fruits to the desert of the Middle East, and that fruit being democracy, you can't it just doesn't make sense. It's hypocritical
or circumstantial. If you think about it, to the Jews, they say, yes, we're a democracy, but there is people who want to underthrow our democracy. There is people out of religious, opinions will try to take advantage of the democracy and make this place not a democracy and not Jew. So they're kind of stuck. We want to have a democracy, but we know that not all of our Arab friends want to share that democracy. But if we give them democracy, they might use the democracy against us and annihilate the democracy. So when you're stuck in that place, it becomes very hard sometimes to find the right way. And I feel like, there's not really an obvious agenda by them to oppress these voices, but they want to preserve that democracy and they want to preserve their Jewish identity, which I respect. They have only one Jewish country in the world. They have nowhere to go. It's it bringing me to the point, that I wanted to say, because what is the future? The Arabs are here. Muslims are here, the Jews are here, and no one is going to leave. The Jews don't want to leave; they have nowhere to leave, and they also tell you, "We've been waiting for this country. This is our country. We've been exiled from it twice. We want to come back. We want to stay here." And then you have the Arabs here, the Muslims, saying, "This is my home. I don't want to go anywhere else." So, unless you do something extreme and evil, you're going to have both of them staying here. You need to be like the people who want to have, this genocide ideas or excelling ideas. That's a very stupid, dangerous, and evil idea. So I don't support that. But what I do know is that they're both going to stay here. The Jews are staying here. The Muslims are staying here. And how would our future be? How can we make a better future where they will accept each other?
It's the $1 million question.
It is the $1 million question.
I think I have an answer for it.
What?
We shared a lot of our answers of what we think, the future.
No, but wait, hold up.
But I want to hear his, because our audience have heard our, visions of how the future will turn up. So now I guess we'll hear another view of what do you think the future lies.
I think 2 answers to it. First, I would recommend be like the Druze. I think that's a cool slogan to have. But in general, integrate into society. Say, you know what? This is my country. I am part of this country. I respect this country. I want to help this country prosper. And that through that, you will get the respect of the other side that maybe is afraid of you or hurt by you. Say, we do have a partner. You look today how the Jews and the Druze, ask a Jew about the Druze. Oh, the brothers. They're my brother, my blood brother. Oh, we love them. They're sometimes even loved more than the Jews themselves. Like some Jews love the Druze more than they love the Jews because they say, wow, these guys are really with us in fire and in, rain. So to really integrate and say, this is my country, I'm going to make it a better country. So it might take a few years, but when they will start seeing, wow, these guys are with us. They're not trying to underthrow us. They're not trying to kill us. They're not trying to, they will get more acceptance. The second thing is just education. Mm-hmm. I honestly think I'm raising my kid now to love your kid and your kid one day. And doesn't matter which religion they are. And when they backpack and they meet each other in China or in Taiwan, in a hostel somewhere in South America, they will sit and he would not ask, oh, are you a Muslim? Are you an Arab? Are you a Jew? He won't ask that. They will just, so if the Jews raise their kid like that and the Muslim raise their kid, you will have peace in one generation. I think the thing is we are stuck with the sins of our fathers. And I have a lot of respect to our elders, but a lot of time they're holding us from moving forward. Yeah, they stole this land from us. They did terrible crimes against us. They kicked us out of their house. So the Muslim pain is real. The Arab pain is real. You cannot... The Palestinian. The Palestinian... Thank you. The Palestinian pain is real. You cannot steal that from them. I cannot come and tell you, you need to deny your pain as a Palestinian. Your grandmother, if the fact that she hates Israel make her evil. She have a real, genuine pain. Your parents, your grandparents, they have a real, genuine pain from what happened here. Same with the Jews. But the thing is, when would we let that pain behind us? Because like I said, we are here together. Like I went to a pro-Palestine demonstration in Germany, and I went speaking Arabic, and I was not trying to be provocative. I just genuinely wanted to ask them. And I asked so many young people there, do you see a future that, Palestinians and Jews can live together? I said, no.
Were they Palestinian?
I think most of them were not. That even bothered me more.
That bothers us too. Don't worry.
I was like, you're not even here.
Like it's not
you
our
don't have
fucking
skin
voice.
In the game. Yeah.
Yeah. People are speaking on us, and to the first point that
they have
you
nothing
made,
to lose from that
because they're not affected by it personally.
No,
so they can just say it. And I think for the first point that you made, it's something that me and Amira always talk about, is that, there's one extra element I would say that we are putting into that equation, that being part of the country and being part of the society and integrating in a way that, yes, but I also don't want to erase my identity within that state.
Absolutely.
Meaning, because what we said, the term Palestinian here is a political one, we're trying to I would say, own it as our peoplehood, culture, heritage, history, food, norms, and everything that comes with it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also a step that the state needs to make. And I hear it from a lot of Arabs, especially in the north, right? That would say, and that's completely different from East Jerusalem, that would say, if this state comes to a place where it accepts me, because that's the state, it's the bigger figure, I'm just the citizen. If it accepts me as a peoplehood within the Israeli society, as a Palestinian and Israeli, then I'll be able also it'll be easier, I would say, to accept it with its complex identity, being the Jewish democratic. We're not Jews, and we're struggling with how much democratic it is. Mm-hmm. So that would bring a step closer, I would say, that you are Palestinian as a peoplehood. It's not because you want to erase the country. It's just because that's your peoplehood, and you're part of the Israeli society, just like anyone else. And I think that's one of the things that we try to advocate for. And if you have anything else to say on that.
Yeah. I'll add, and then I would love to know when you first met a Palestinian or when you heard the term Palestinian. I will add to that is you said and you say this a lot, like on your feed, that 2 points. One is that, yes, I agree with you that we can't keep on living in the past. We can't keep on being dragged from prospering into the future. Mm-hmm. And not however, and to say, and you're not a Jewish person, but to just compare let's just forget and akol beseder, like everything will be fine. And like the establishment of the state of Israel is because the Jewish people never forgot their suffering, and they say never again. That's the reason. That's like one of the foundations I would believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, either the listeners or you, that they did not forget. They learned. They did not forget. And the second point, and then feel free to comment. I just want to continue the thought. The second thing is that yes, there are forces of evil on the Palestinian side. As a Palestinian, I say there are forces of evil that we see, and we saw it on the 7th of October.
That are harmful for the Palestinians more than anything else.
Amen, 100%. That are harmful for the Palestinians, harmful for the Israelis, and no such human being should see, let alone experience or do such acts. Just the word integration. Like I can't just choose to integrate. I need to, and it shouldn't be integration. It should be acceptance. You need acceptance in order to integrate, whether that be through education, which is the second point that you said, which is brilliant. Yes, we need education. So it's a very powerful tool that we need to get in order to get that, instead of like coexistence, for it to become actually a shared living. Yes. And then there's like in East Jerusalem, for example, let's say that I, let's say, for example, I came across or overcame the thought and the rhetoric of Jews are my enemy, Jews are evil, Jews want to eliminate me. And this place can never coexist with the Palestinian state. And then you see acts on the ground. Like what's happening right now in East Jerusalem that isn't talked about is that people in Silwan, in East Jerusalem, have been given 60 days to evacuate their homes. Not all of Silwan, places of Silwan. Why? Because the Jerusalem municipality has said that they want to build what's telefrik?
Cable carts.
Cable carts that connect the Jewish parts.
Like the one in Haifa.
Okay, wow.
That connect the Jewish parts of East Jerusalem to West Jerusalem. Now, first, that's extremely, I don't know what to call that. It's like a cable cart above the slums. That's what I imagine. It's like we're going to neglect the parts where Palestinians live, where the residents live, and we're just going to
skip over them.
Yes, just skip over them. It's like I don't want to go over that. Instead of like investing in the roads, investing in the public transportation that takes us inside of East Jerusalem. And yes, I'm aware that there's a light rail, but there's also a settlement like East Jerusalem say called Bisgat Ze'ev in East Jerusalem. Yeah. And I say a settlement because East Jerusalem is supposedly occupied by the claimed to be occupied. And the places where in Silwan where they want to like have either like electricity or whatever for these cable carts have been claimed to be kind of public property and needed for the city. So they were given a notice of evacuation for a 60-day notice. So I want to integrate and I live in that house that needs to evacuate. What do? I want to integrate. I don't even want to be accepted, but I want to integrate. What am I supposed to do? You see that there aren't, it's kind of like a political systematic, not just discrimination, but it's just like built in a way that excludes Palestinians, targets Palestinians, and ostracizes Palestinians to make their lives unlivable and miserable until they either leave or choose violence as a strategy to resist. And it's extremely like, don't want to say frustrating, but it saddens me that not just like that people don't understand this because it's clear as day.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, your pain is real. There's no doubt about that. You know, I would not like to be evacuated from my home. My parents would not like that. And I also feel that, you know, many times the silent majority is the one that suffer the most from the radicals that, you know, kind of create all these problems. It will take a sacrifice. It will take a great sacrifice from Jews and from Palestinians to get to the point that we're actually choosing the future, not looking back. And it will take a sacrifice from both sides, you know, definitely from Israel to start, you know, treating more fairly some of these aspects that you mentioned, which, you know, there's no doubt about it. And I think sad to say, the current government was not the best example of, tolerance and this, but let's not get into that right now. But, to give the example of the trauma that the Jews went after the Holocaust, I think what they did was a great example for the rest of the world, and I think Palestinians should learn from that. They chose the future and life rather than to go and hate the Germans. Mm-hmm. That's why you never saw a Jew that went and did a suicide bombing against Germans, or I don't know what. They could have hated them. They could have probably let that voice up, and then until today we'll be fighting in that hate. But actually they said, what, that happened in the past, we're going to look at the future, we're going to build. And then they became great allies with the German. It took a long time. There were generations of Jews that couldn't even imagine speaking to a German.
Till this day.
Oh, I have a couple Jewish friends who don't buy German products until today.
I know several German girls that I've met that their heart got broken because they dated a Jewish guy and they were in love with each other. And in the end, he broke up with them because his family could not accept the idea that their son is going to marry, because they're Holocaust survivors. So there was a trauma, huge trauma, but they chose to go in the future. And I think, I'm not going to say that what's happening is fair. I'll be lying, and I'll be, it will be unfair for me to tell you, that's fair. They should kick you out of your house. First, I don't know enough about it. And second of all, like I said, it's your life, it's your house. I cannot come and promote that. But I can say, to look at the future, there was going to be a level of sacrifice that the Palestinians will need to do, our generation will need to do, in both sides. You're going to raise your kids, and God willing, you're going to raise your kids to love my kids and to love the next Jewish kid. And hopefully with that, we can come to a place that, these barriers, these walls will start, fading away. And that's a solution that I see right now, because there's going to be still problems. There's going to be still, unfair acts. And you guys are not the only ones suffering from it. There's other communities, even the Druze have some problems, that they're going through.
We'll get into that soon. Don't worry. Because it's not also flowers and rainbows for the Druze community with the rest of the Israeli society. Even though the relationship is different and it has a different type of closeness, but also there are a lot of pain and injustices that the Druze community feels also.
Yeah, I mean, Israel is by far not a perfect country. Sometimes I meet people outside that think that Israel is a holy cow. Guys, Israel is not a holy cow. Israel is like any other country. Israel is like any other country that have its challenges. They have, they're aspiring, they're trying to be, I believe, a fair country for everybody. And there is people that try to push it this way or this way. But in general, I feel like it's trying to go in a good way. But there's a lot of minorities that are suffering. And they need a voice. So back to what I said, there's going to be a great level of sacrifice that's going to have to happen from the Palestinians and from the Israelis to actually come to a future. And we have no other alternative. There's no way around it. Because the Jews are here to stay. Mm-hmm. And the Palestinians are here to stay. And none of them want to leave. They see it as their home. Someone who's living in that house doesn't care what someone thought 4,000 years ago. That's his house. His grandfather was here. He is here. He wants his children to be here. Same with the Jew. That's my house. I have nowhere to go, they will tell you. And that's true. They don't have any other state to go. So if they don't learn to live with each other, it's going to be a catastrophe. So I think...
Which is what we're living.
Yeah.
Right now.
But that's why I think our voice is so important. That's why I think education is so important. Like I said, raise one generation to not care about these things, and you're gonna have peace.
So Mansour, when you identified, you said, and I quote, Arab, Israeli, Druze, yes. Correct? Is there any point, I would like to move to talk about maybe clashes? We talked a little bit about clashes between the Druze part with the Arab part, and we've talked about our opinion, but what about the Israeli, and I would specify the Jewish and the Druze part?
And I would say even more so, because let's talk about specific events. Maybe that will put it into context.
Exactly.
Because the relationship is the relationship, but there are key, I would say, not just moments in time. They're very key moments in time where the Druze community faced real challenge of having to be really an equal part in the country. We talk about democracy, we talk about being equal, all of these things.
Yeah.
The first one, and then we'll touch upon the second one, but let's start with the first one, which was in 2018. one new law that came out was the nation state law.
Mm-hmm.
And that specific law was the one that addressed.
Can you say what it is?
Yep, and it's the law that basically I would say reaffirmed or strengthened that the state of Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people. This is what the state is. So basically, Israel is the home for the Jews.
Yeah.
And
is there something about the language also?
And within that law, one of the things that happened was also that the Arabic language, which used to be what's it called, one of the primary languages of the country, it put into a special status, which is like we're still trying to understand what exactly how does that play on the ground. Like actually, some of the documents now you can see it in Hebrew, maybe not in Arabic, which before all of them were.
Signs also, I've seen signs that don't have Arabic.
Some of the newer signs. So like there's all these questions. And I remember, so for the Arab community and like for our community, the problem was the law altogether.
Yeah.
Like we had a problem with the law as is. The Druze community had a different claim, is that it did not provide a status for the Druze to feel that this is their homeland too.
Yes.
And massive protests followed that from the Druze community. And, so many people in Israel spoke about it.
Mm-hmm.
So many people even joined the Druze protests and are still talking about it today. But until today, this law hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Even when we had change of governments, all of these things happened in the past few years, and still this law is as is.
Yeah.
How does the Druze community feel about it? Because I remember some people talking about even starting to, we started at the beginning of 2018-19 after the nation state law, number of recruits to the army started to slowly, not like drastically, but slowly some more people started to say, I don't want to serve because this country is claiming this is just for the Jews. Where am I?
Yeah.
How can you elaborate on that, on those feeling, on that frustration, or on the way forward?
Yeah. Like I said, again, I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I don't represent the entire, some Druze might see it differently here and there, but in general, I feel like most Druze felt like it was a slap into their face. I was in Miami or Texas when that happened. I remember I came to Israel to join my mom because my mom came to Tel Aviv to demonstrate, to say we are not second-class citizens. And I feel many of the Druze came and said, wait a second, guys, we are with you here through everything. We are with you in wars, we're with you in peace. We have, the Druze and the Jews have all the rights and obligations in Israel. It's the only two communities that have all the rights and obligations. Like, a Druze man cannot say, I don't want to serve in the army, while let's say a Christian or a Muslim man can say, I don't want, and actually they won't even demand from him. He can say, hey guys, I want to, you need to volunteer. So the Druze felt like, whoa, that's what's going on. Am I second class? I thought we're equal. And I feel like many of the Jews also supported the Druze and came and stood. And I think until today, you probably won't find many Druze that say, I like that law. I don't know a single Druze that say, I'm sure there is, but that say, hey, I like that law. Because, it does, especially now in the war, you see a lot of Druze casualties are being, the front line. They're dying, fighting Hamas. They're protecting this country. For them, many of them are more patriotic than the Jews. Like I said, you go through a Druze village, you'll see more Israeli flags and Druze flags than in a Jewish city. So for them, that was a huge slap in the face. And, my mom got very hurt by it and many others. I do hope that they make, something to change it. I never went too deep into it, but I felt like I was not surprised that the last government was the one to lead that. I feel they were much more.
Or the one before last.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of almost the same government.
Yeah, there's so many governments that we switched lately.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that law have no place. I understand the Jews want to keep the Jewish identity. And this is the only Jewish country in the world, and I'm full supportive, okay, keep your identity as a Jewish country. I have no problem with that. There's a lot of Christian countries, there's a lot of Muslim countries, only one Jewish country. But to make a law like that and still call it democracy it's just very hard for me to sit in my head. Maybe someone can come and convince me otherwise. I'm open for discussion always, but just you can't just say, hey, this is democracy, but we have class A citizen, class B, class C. And I feel like I said, the majority or a lot of people in the country don't like that law as well. You have a lot of Jews that also don't support that. And I feel like if that law will continue or go down, will determine what kind of a country Israel will be moving forward. I feel this is like a milestone that Israel need to be tested on. How are you guys going to deal with that? You call yourself democracy? That law is very, very edgy, guys. You know, that's my opinion. You know, I don't like in general any law that make anyone a class B citizen, or that's what it does.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest unfortunate things I would say, because you said a slap in the face. For me and for the Arab community, I would say in general, it was we
like duh.
It's for us it's a poke in the eye. It's not a slap in the face. It's more poke in the eye, as if like the state was established as a Jewish democracy, and now you're like telling me, listen, it's like, okay, we know it's a Jewish state. Like, what do you want from me? Like, now you need to also put it in a law.
I heard that.
Put that again in my face. Like, this is a poke in the eye. To like again stress to me that this is mine, not yours.
I heard that a lot actually from Jews, like Jews that like, why did we need this law? Like, we knew that it was a Jewish state. We knew that Hebrew was the official language. Like, why?
Yeah, that's how I felt as well. It's like, why do you need this law? None of the Druze came and threatened you and said, hey, we want to take your state from you. We want to make it a Druze state. We just know that we're equal. We just know that, I treat you with respect, you treat me with respect. We both carry the same load of responsibilities, obligations. Why did you bring this law? To make us feel like, we're equal, but we're not really equal. To remind us.
Just so you know who's in charge.
No, that's many Druze felt that way. It's like, whoa. And like I said, a lot of my comrades, my Jewish brothers and sisters that I live with, none of them supported that law. And they were very hurt. Many of them came and apologized to me and said, listen, we're so sorry that you need to go through this. And because they felt the pain. Yeah.
And one of maybe the unfortunate part about it is that the Druze and the rest of the Arab community had separate protests.
That's a shame.
Because the Druze had a different claim. It's okay, you wanna have this law, you put a status for the Druze, a special status for the Druze, because the Druze serve in the army. That's already the division between us.
It's not only the serve in the army, and
like real part of the state.
Yes. I will add.
What else other than the army?
I will add, like I said before, the Druze have completely integrated with the Israeli state, and it says we're part of this country, we're Israelis, and we have a common future. So they saw themselves as completely going hand in hand with the Jews to make the future, while the Palestinians, many of them did not want the existence of the state even. And they say, so the Druze says, guys, okay, I understand if you're a bit afraid of them wanting to take your identity and kick you out of here from the river to the sea, get rid of you guys. We don't want that. So they came to the Jews and says, if you want to make that law, we don't like it, but at least give us a different category because we are with you here. That's what they felt. So I do understand. I would probably not come and say it that way myself, but I do understand when they came and says, well, if you want to make that stupid law, then at least give us a different status, guys, because we are with you.
And the crazy part is that even that request was not accepted.
Yeah.
Even that request to just add on the law, they didn't even do that, which is like, I think it tells a lot on the, complexity.
That shocked me. And I feel like now during this war after October 7, that conversation started rising up again.
Oh, I'm sure it will, especially with the Druze casualties. Like then the Druze community will come and say, excuse me.
Yeah.
Like I'm sure
we fought for you.
I'm sure that will happen again.
Sacrifice our life for you.
And actually now we'll come to,
There's that guy, Salman. He was a tank commander. He jumped on his tank without orders and he drove for like 2 hours and went into battle to defend a Jewish. There were no Druze, to my knowledge, in Be'eri and Kfar Aza, maybe one family. So he went there to fight, to defend Jews. And not only him, there were Bedouins that did that, there were Muslims that did that, there were Christian Arabs that did that. They went to defend. And I think that's one of the things that Israel need to wake up to. And the Arabs in Israel need to wake up to as well. We're here together. Because some of these enemies will probably kill you and you as they come to kill me or any Jew. Some of these fanatic, this radical Hamas guys or I don't know what. the enemies of all of us, and if I don't defend you and you don't defend me, we have no future here. And I think that's something that Israel need to wake up to.
And now to the more shared thing, like we talked about the division between us in terms of the discrimination, and like we saw the nation state law in one way, and the Druze community saw it in a bit different way. But here's one common thing to all of us as minorities.
Food.
Well,
oh my God. Do you know how many comments? We opened the question box. I wanted to go and see, to find an actual question. We touched upon a lot of them, but most of it was the food, the Druze food.
I don't know if I should get offended or not, because, I'm not an Instagram model. So the fact that people want to look at this Jafar looking guy and listen to what it says, make me feel good about, okay, I have some intellectual input. But when people see me with a video with my mom, they start sending me comment, can you please make a cooking show about the Druze? I'm like, I'll probably get more views if I'll sit with my mom and roll Ali Giffen and waraq anib.
The grape leaves.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but maybe that's going to be the next episode.
We do share very similar cuisines, and actually some of the dishes are very unique to the Druze. I gotta say, Amira knows how protective I am of the food, the Arab community's food. But I cannot say any word against the Druze make incredible food.
Yeah. Mansour, you'd have to invite me.
You don't understand.
And let me experience that, because I don't know. I won't judge. I've eaten restaurant food. I don't think that's
and comparison. Even Arabs say
no, it's not even close.
Seriously. Even for us, like in the north especially, even we say we talk and bragging about the Druze hospitality. Like we have Arab hospitality. Yeah. Theirs is like Jesus Christ, how hospitable they are. They took it to another level. We're hospitable. That's part of our culture. But they're wow, okay, this is a whole different story. And
they're super hospitable, super tolerant towards others and accepting, but not so tolerant toward themselves. That's like a paradox there.
It's interesting.
That's a very Arab, Middle Eastern thing.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Another thing that we share in common outside of food is one of the challenges that we face in terms of our living. And we touched upon it in one of the earlier episodes. And we talked about, housing and expansion of Arab towns. And actually we had a couple comments, people saying us, you guys want Arab towns? That sounds racist. I'm like, you do not understand our dynamic here, because we each of us choose to have their own community.
And it's something that we have in common, whether that's Jews, Druze, or Arabs, is we like to multiply.
Yes.
And we like to be in our own community. And then the
Let Arab me guess, sorry, were they Americans, the people, or where was that coming from?
Different, I don't think it's anyone from here, because people
not
from
Middle
here
Eastern.
are aware of these kind of dynamics. But then, it's a very similar struggle that we all share. And for me, it's really interesting because, we struggle as an Arab community in expansion of towns and advocating for building new towns and struggling with that. But the Druze community has the same. And the Druze community actually last year went on a protest. And actually the head of the community spoke about it. Sheikh Zarif spoke about how is it possible that because Druze also started to build illegally because there's nowhere to go. We
talked about it last time. It's very difficult to build in Israel, whether you're a Jew, a Druze, or an Arab, or a Palestinian, it's extremely difficult.
But, and then that's the perception of expanding the mutual cities. Mm-hmm. The Druze community, even more so than Arab community, is very we need to live in our village and you don't go anywhere else.
Because of what he explained of the religion, the society, the community.
Everything together, you're very much tied to that village, and you're not trying to go live in Haifa if you're in Osafiyeh, which is right next to it, Asifiyah in Arabic. No, you're trying to expand your own community and you're not given that. So they went on protest and, they had a very strong claim of, we go to, like you said, we go to the army, we serve, we do all these things, and then I'm getting a few hundred thousands of shekels fine because I'm building illegally because I don't have anywhere else to go. And that sentiment of deep frustration was all over the Druze villages, which we share. We all share this struggle, and for me, it's interesting dynamic that oh, it's not only just us, even, other minorities, even the ones who have gone to this length to go to the army, to do all these things, to integrate, like you say, and they still get this treatment. So then I'm like, okay, how can we actually look for a real positive expansion of Arab towns if it's not even happening in the Druze ones? Just wondering, if, from your experience, your family, your community, that challenge of building and expanding, how does that resonate, and what are the feelings there?
Or if you or anyone you know were affected by
it. No, that's a good question. I'll just be honest. I don't know. I don't know a lot of people that had to go through this challenge. I can understand the pain of anyone who might go through this challenge. And just like you said, in Israel, it's difficult for anyone to build anything. Anywhere you go to walk around, it's like a holy place or a national reserve place, or there's a lot of political agendas. The Jews want that place, the Muslim want that place, the Druze. So it's a complicated issue. I never had to experience it myself, and I wasn't in Israel when that was going, so I don't want to say anything wrong.
Okay, I respect that.
Yeah, we can say that we really do hope that all the communities in Israel are allowed to be treated fairly, to expand, because we're multiplying, like Amira said, like it's inevitable. Numbers are increasing, guys, and we need places to go. And the solution cannot be, go to the mixed cities. Like, no, this is not the solution.
No,
we deserve to live in our own communities and expand them. So hopefully that will be all of our futures.
No, for sure. For the Druze, it is important to live in their own community, to live in a place where they can practice their faith and live according to their standards of living. If it comes to the code dress, that is important for them, the culture, politeness that is important for them, that they would not see in a city.
Exactly.
Go to a Druze city, you will not see a single pub. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
It's might here and there a small one. It's not accepted.
Is it okay to drink?
As per the religion, no. But you still, like, the seculars will drink. They have beer, they have this, but it's not accepted. You won't see a lot of, like, it's very, very unlikely to find a Druze guy sitting with a bottle of vodka in the street. Like, extremely unlikely.
Actually,
but they do drink.
Actually, there is one difference, and like this is a whole topic that we're not going to delve into. Like, I don't think this is the platform, because we have the Golan Heights and the Druze communities who live there.
Yeah.
That, by the way, and it's important note to mention that the Druze of the Golan Heights are the vast majority are only residents, because the Golan Heights was occupied by Israel. They became only residents, and they also have a process of naturalization if they want to become Israeli. So the Druze of the Golan don't have to do the army.
Yeah,
they don't have to do the army. And interestingly also, from what I experienced, they have pubs. And the Druze of the Golan drink.
Yeah, they're more secular.
And it's like, it's a common thing to drink there. They have their own pubs and bars.
It's interesting.
Which I enjoy a lot when I go there. But then I'm like, okay, like this is so completely different. And they live like what, a few like kilometers away from each other. Like it's not that far of a difference of geographic, but the society is so different.
Yeah, very
but
different.
Because they're Syrians.
They're Syrians. Many of them see their identity also that way.
They still see it as they're Syrians.
I don't know if the new generation, like I'm not so aware of it. I didn't talk, but the older generation, yeah.
Yeah, the younger generation is still, it's in that place of the limbo. Like I'm born here and then I go to the university in Haifa, but then I'm also only a resident. And by the way,
but they also have a real fear. Like, they kept hearing different governments saying, give back the Golan, don't give back the Golan, give back the Golan.
Yes.
So the people sitting there saying, whoa, guys, I'm gonna swear an oath to serve you now. And then tomorrow you give back the Golan, they're gonna
to
slaughter
Syria,
us.
they'll kill me in Syria. So
Yeah.
how can I? Or if you want to become a citizen, sometimes because of the civil war in Syria, you have family members who are still in Syria, so they could be targeted
You can
because
endanger
they
them.
heard that you became Israeli.
Yeah.
So they also have a fear of becoming Israeli for
They
that.
decided to stay in the natural kind of
It's a very complex situation with them.
So complicated.
Middle East. Welcome to the Middle
Welcome
East.
to the Middle East. It's complicated. It's fun.
complicated.
We sidetracked and we did not ask you, or you did not answer the question of when you met your first Palestinian,
Yes.
or the term, or the idea, or maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but go ahead.
Yes. So you'll be surprised. The first time I met a Palestinian was when I was a kid in Gaza. And it was during the days where Gaza was a very peaceful place. Gaza was like
what year are we talking? Roughly?
90s, late 80s, beginning of 90s.
Okay.
I remember, that was one of my father's, probably in the late 80s, one of my father's favorite place was to take us. See, the Druze would live in villages. Gaza was a city, kind of, was like more modern. So to go to Gaza, and we'd go freely, and we'd sit there and we'd eat. So I never really grew up thinking something wrong about the Palestinians. It was just like another beautiful place that I can go in Israel. And they were very welcoming to us, and I remember one of the best fishes that I had. One of the first fish that I had was in a fish restaurant in Gaza by the beach. They had the most beautiful beach. So I remember that was my first, interaction. And then later on, the Intifada came, and that's where I feel like a big kind of torn was happening, where you started seeing, the Palestinians are scary. They want to kill us. So that's when you start feeling like maybe they're the enemy. But I never really felt that they were my enemy, the people. I always loved the people. However, the first time that it really shocked me, I remember, was in Germany. I was in a train, and I was listening to a song, Sidi Mansour. Sidi Mansour,
yeah, Baba.
My name is Mansour. I was listening to it.
Great song, by the way.
Yeah,
it is.
It's a classic.
One of my favorite songs.
It's a classic, guys.
And then there was a student that was sitting next to me in the train, and he heard the Arabic, and he started speaking to me in Arabic. And I started speaking to him in Arabic. I enjoyed it. And then I asked him, where is he from? He said, Palestine. I said, okay. He asked me where he's from. I said, Israel. He says, Israel or Palestine? I said, Israel. And then I asked him where in Palestine, and he said, Haifa. And I came and I said, that's Israel. That's Israel. That's not Palestine. But he was insisting. And
How old were you?
Surprisingly, I was like 27. That was the first time that I actually encountered that identity issue. Because in Israel, I never really asked an Arab, where are you from? So I've met,
how do you define yourself?
Yeah, it was not a question. But outside of Israel, that was the first time that I met, and I was very surprised, and that's later on I started looking more into it, but that Israeli Arabs, the way I saw them, they live in Israel, they have a blue, Taudat Zehut, identify themselves as Palestinians first and not as Israelis. And I wanted to ask you guys, like, what do you think the main reason? They're afraid from how they would be perceived outside, or actually they see themselves as Palestinian and they don't want to see them as Israelis, or what do you think?
I think that I'd love to hear your input, because when it comes to Jerusalem, like East Jerusalem, if I say Palestine, like people
it's a given.
Yeah, it's a given. Like it's interpreted as, it's like East Jerusalem is occupied, just to be like politically correct, yada yada. But I think it's important to see that you're calling them Arab Israelis. They don't call themselves Israeli. I would say they would call themselves they're Palestinian, and Arab is like obvious. For me, I remember that it was hard for me, because on a map, like look up now a world map, it's like inside of Israel. However, to understand like kind of the mentality behind it is that kind of refusal to recognize the existence of the state of Israel. Why? Because I don't know if that specific person, their ancestors are from Haifa, but if so, then their ancestors are from Haifa, Palestine, like back, like Haifa, Palestine, that's what they know. And after the Nakba and the establishment of the state of Israel, it became Israel. However, for them, it's kind of like a story that it was, is, and will always be Palestine. And I think that is there is no Israel, and it might be, I don't know about 48, like I don't know about that area, Haifa.
No, but it's a very similar sentiments.
But I feel like in Jerusalem, in the West Bank, like if or in 48 Palestine, in 48 Israel, in Haifa, if you say like, if you're an Arab, if you're a Palestinian, and you say that I'm from Israel, amongst your Palestinian peers that are from there, I think the most maximum you would get is a dirty look or someone swearing at you. in East Jerusalem, inside of the West Bank, in the occupied Palestinian territories, you might get threatened. Like you might get you cannot recognize, you cannot say the word Israel. I only started saying the word Israel at the age of 22. And I would feel something, like I would feel that I'm doing something wrong. That's why when I would say I'm from Jerusalem, even like from abroad, I'm from Jerusalem. Because I don't feel comfortable saying that I'm from Israel, because it's kind of like a belonging kind of thing. I'm not from Israel. And I'm also feel like a fraud when I say I'm from Palestine, because I'm not from the West Bank. I'm not from Gaza. So I say I'm from Jerusalem. I would like revert the question. What would you have thought if they said, for example, I'm from occupied Palestine?
What would I thought if you would set up from occupied Palestine?
Would that have made more sense? Like, he's a nationalistic Palestinian. He believes that he's occupied and that Israel is on Palestinian land. What would be something that you would say, oh, I understand that. That makes sense.
No, I think if I'll be honest, it would have probably bothered me.
Yeah.
Because I would say, you are enjoying all the privileges of living in Israel, probably even more than the Druze, because, you don't carry all the obligations. You carry all the rights.
The burden, yeah.
Yeah. And then you are so against that country. So make your choice, man. Either you say, I'm here, I'm going to help, or, go find somewhere else. You can't say, oh, I'm living here, I'm enjoying that. But you know what? I wish that you all guys disappear, and that, it doesn't work that way. That would have probably bothered me as someone who paid a very big price to help this country through my army service, through my activist, involvement in different aspects of the country. I volunteer with Palestinian kids. I volunteer with Jewish kids, with Christian kids, with Druze kids. I really believe in education. So I feel like I'm putting an effort to help make this country a better place for my children, for your children. And you come and you hate that country and you don't identify, you enjoy all the privileges. So that would have probably bothered me. I would have no problem if someone would say, I'm Palestinian. Okay, you know what? It's sentiments. But if it comes, I'm in the occupied this, and you are an Israeli, probably somewhere inside me, I would feel like, come on, dude. Choose a future.
I'm curious to hear what you think.
I think like a lot of the things that you mentioned like are very valid and like are on point. About that sentiment that they, especially someone who says I'm from Palestine, I think there are different layers or different reasons why. One of them is the recognition of, if you say you're from Israel, you're recognizing the state, and I think you're also like associating yourself with it.
Yeah.
And when you do that, for a Palestinian, even if you're Israeli citizen, you're sort of also recognizing or accepting or even promoting in a way everything that Israel does to the Palestinians in other areas, so like in West Bank and Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
So then if you're affiliated with the state, it means that in a way you're worried that you're also affiliated with the bad things that the state does. On another level, it's what you said about feeling that this is Palestine. Like that's a sentiment that exists among some people. Maybe not everyone, but definitely it's something that exists. And others, honestly, like me growing up, I always struggled with that question, because it's like, how do I answer this question? Because if I say I'm from Israel, the first thought in that person's mind is he's Jewish.
Yeah.
And I'm not Jewish. Or if I just say I'm Arab Israeli, or I'm Arab from Israel, that means that I'm just another member of the Israeli society who just happens to be Arab. And it kind of like hides away part of the identity that is a real one, being also Palestinian. So it's like, no, so what do I do? Like, am I only Palestinian? Do I say only Palestine? Do I say only Israel? And how do I, because like you said, I can't feel like I can say either or alone and to feel that I'm actually giving a fair answer. But then to give a very long answer is very tiring, because then you have to like explain everything. And that's a very real struggle. Every Arab that I know that from 48, definitely, that goes abroad, it's like a question. It's like, how do you present yourself to people in the best way possible?
Yeah.
And again, like it's all these challenges. For me, the solution that I got to myself is just own everything. Just like, you've said at the beginning, you're Arab, Israeli, and Druze. I'm Arab, Palestinian, and Israeli.
So how do you answer?
I'm Arab, Palestinian, Israeli. And
Yeah,
then
but
they
where
ask,
are you from?
oh, I don't say where I'm from. I say what I am. Or I say I'm a Palestinian Israeli. I live in
Living
Israel.
in Israel.
Yeah. I'm Palestinian Israeli who lives in Israel.
I live in Israel, Palestine. Israel, pal.
Israel, Palestine.
Oh, that Gaddafi had a idea to merge
Israel
or something like that. Yeah. He brought it, I think, to the UN, like, boldly just going and say Israel or something like this. But I think this is a great way where we can, like, just bring that message that identity is very crucial for every one of us, and we should be very proud of each of our identity, and also to find I would say, the golden route that we can be fully ourselves, and not to hide parts of the aspects of who you are. Because if I say I'm from Palestine, the first thought in someone's mind is, okay, I'm getting bombarded every day by the Israeli, and I'm not. So I cannot own it as my suffering. I think that's also unfair to the others. So bringing a complex view and bringing all of your identity, and having what you said, education, talk about different identities. Once that Palestinian identity is ingrained in Israel, will change worlds, and it'll be a lot easier. And hopefully we can be in a place where the word Palestinian is not a political movement that would be feared, or even just the word Arab, just like from what you said, that you get some people who tell you, why you say you're Arab, and all these questions, because of their fear of what Arab in their eyes is.
The image
and that should be eradicated. We should own our Arabness and be proud of it. And I love that you're proud of that side. That you're not just saying, oh, I'm just Druze. Like, to say that I'm just Israeli, it's like we shouldn't be pleasing anyone. And you're not trying to please anyone in that way, to say I'm just Druze and not Arab. No, you're owning your Arabhood.
And none of the three,
and the same we
none
feel.
Of the three definitions threaten the other. Me being an Arab doesn't threaten me being a Druze. Me being a Druze doesn't threaten me being an Israeli. Me being an Arab doesn't. It's not like this is against this. It's like all together. It's a harmony. Just one package. I'm an Arab. I'm a Druze. I'm an Israeli. It doesn't matter which order you have it. Also.
And that's literally how we feel. That my Palestinianhood doesn't affect the Israeli side of me, or doesn't threaten it. It's part of it. It's the mix of both. That reality brought us to this place, and let's embrace it all.
Yeah. Can I ask one last question? I know.
Sure.
Yes. I look at the two of you and I see a chance for a better future. I'm speaking honestly now. Between Israelis, Arabs, Jews, Palestinians. What do you think needs to happen in the Arab society that will be more young people like you guys? Separation of religious from state, religion from state, or like, because I think if there will be more people like that, it's just the road for peace will be much easier.
That's a loaded question.
It's a very loaded question. I mean, and I think the only thing that I can just say is that, and I said that before, once that identity is recognized in Israel, you'll see a lot more voices that will come out and say it. Right now, they feel that they're in a place where you're stuck. Like, the state doesn't recognize your identity. You're afraid to put it out there publicly, from both sides. So what am I supposed to do? It's just me and Amira said, like, screw it all. We're just going to put it out there. Like, the war happened, and we didn't speak about it that publicly before. I did only once, and just by writing an article about it. I didn't just put myself in front of a camera and said it. And the war and the feeling that it's like a now or never situation is kind of the one that made me say, okay, like, I need to put this out there, and maybe to draw a different path. I think part of the problem that there was no path drawn to that identity to merge. And this is part of what we're trying to do here.
Because, I feel like, just the example here that there's two Muslims that invited a Druze to a podcast. You guys invited a Jew to a podcast. So you're already representing the beautiful side that people hope to see in Islam and that exists in Islam, where you invite others and they don't need to feel afraid or threatened or you want to change them. You just
we don't have to agree. Like I promised myself that because it's called Unapologetic. I won't speak for Ibrahim, and I wanted after to thank you, to tell you that it was like I had to debate with myself, like, should I actually bring him? Like, should I be against this?
Yeah.
Because I don't like everything that you post out there. I don't like. Like sometimes I feel like it's one-sided. Sometimes I feel like, oh, he's so biased. Why should I bring him? But
God forbid that you will let that dictate your decision. Because
exactly. We had a beautiful conversation today, to be honest, like a very beautiful conversation. And we still, like, there are things that you said that I was like, no, I don't agree. And there were things like, oh, I didn't know that about the Druze community. Oh, I want to go eat their food. So thank you so very much for coming. I hope that this would encourage our listeners to learn more about the Druze community.
Thank you.
Will encourage Druze to accept their Arabness, or at least explore it.
Many do. It's just a little bit here and there.
Yeah. And also for our Arab listeners to be exposed to such kind of a complex a dialogue. Also, like I said, it was kind of a dilemma for me to sit and talk here, but at the end of the day, like, a conversation had is better than a conversation not had.
Yeah,
and I'm sure you also saw some of our content. You were like, oh, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that. And again, it should not be a reason why.
I sat with myself and I pondered, and also some of my followers sent me some questions. Some of them were nasty questions to ask you guys. But then I sat with myself and I said, you know what? I can go and meet with these people that I might find things that we disagree, but I can choose to focus on what I disagree and make it an argument, and maybe try to win that argument, or try to like quench their fire, or they try to quench mine. But I said, what would I achieve by that?
Yeah.
I have here two beautiful people that are trying to advocate for peace and coexistence. And maybe I don't agree about everything, but there's so many out there, fanatics, that are trying to shut our voices. And if we start shutting each other's voices, we're doing the job for them. Like, we're ruining the chance for a hope. And like you said, agree to disagree. And I'm sure there's things that we disagree here, but
yeah, there are big things that we disagree on, like
100%.
Like the for this really dragged, like this conversation, like, is a very long conversation. I wish we had more, or a part 2 or something. Big example is that we advocate for a ceasefire. You don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, and I wish we had time to talk about that, but
that would be part 2. Yeah,
that would be the next time Mansour is back here, back in the country after being in Germany. We'll invite him again, and we'll
That's
talk.
a teaser for the next episode.
Or we do it in Germany.
Or we go to Germany.
They want ceasefire. I don't. Coming next.
And again, like, it's exactly what you both said about, we could choose to have a discussion about all the things that we think are like, oh, we disagree with this. Let's put this on the table.
And I had this conversation with you. I was like, I'm going to prove to him that there is elements of apartheid. I'm going to prove to him that we need a ceasefire.
And I was like,
I'm going to push them to come and say, are you with us or against us? And then I says, no, that's not where I want to take this. This is like, that's the wrong place to go.
Yeah, I was like, Amira, like, there's so much to talk about the Druze culture and community that, like, before we even get to the political, like, hold on a second, like, but again, like, this is part of all our emotions,
part of the spiel,
and we just want to. I think this is a great time to thank you again for being here, for having a beautiful representation of the Druze community. It's a beautiful culture, beautiful people. Welcoming, that definitely we hope more and more people know as much as possible, and come and visit the Druze community. When people come to Israel, especially from our Jewish audience that are maybe abroad, if you come to Israel, come and see the Druze community. Eat
Great
their food,
guys.
incredible, and have conversation and build more place for nuance and discussion and learning and sharing.
Be like the Druze. They have good food and they tolerate all religions. Put it out there.
Very hippie in that way.
Yeah, very, very ancient hippie.
And last but not least, we would like to remind everyone that at the end of the day, all of us, Arabs, Muslims, Christians, Druze, and Jews. Everyone deserves better.
Amen.